All right, everybody. Today is the day where we are going to start the first racking process. Our blueberry wine has been fermenting now for 8 or 9 days. As you can see, there's still quite a bit of carbonation in here. We're getting quite a bit of bubbles coming out, and it's time to start pulling out some of the larger stuff. We're going to rack it into a 6-gallon carboy, which I have over here. I'll show you in just a second. And this is going to take a little bit of time, so we're going to sort of videotape this in stages, and then I'll put it all back together. In the meantime, the first step that we're going to do is we're going to pull the top off, and we're going to open this up and kind of see what we're working with here.
I'm Micah, his son.
All right, guys. So I've been making a point to stir this every 2 days or so, and in the process of stirring it, I've been taking hydrometer readings to check the alcohol by volume and the saturation. We've had a steady decline. The last time that I checked this was day 6, and we were down from a 14.2% alcohol by volume to an 8% alcohol by volume. This is going to ferment for another 30 days in the 6-gallon carboy, which will eventually take it down to 0, making this a 14.2% alcohol by volume wine. That being said, I'm expecting us to be somewhere in the range today of 1.04 on the saturation, and at about maybe 5 or 6% alcohol by volume. So the first thing that we're going to do is we are going to get our hydrometer.
You have a new email.
Everything here has been bleached, disinfected, so I'm going to go ahead and do a quick rinse job. All right, so here we go. Hydrometer goes in here like this, and we're going to take a sample directly from in here. As you can see, we've still got a lot of bubbles on here. We've got some really good color. It smells very good, very fruity. So, we're going to go ahead and we're going to fill up this hydrometer, or this flask, to get a reading on our hydrometer. And as you can see, we've got some flotation, but not a whole lot. We're looking pretty good. So we're going to come down here. As you can see, this column here is the potential alcohol right here, and we're trying to get as close to 0 as we possibly can. So right now we're sitting at about 4, maybe just a little over 4%, which is kind of what I was expecting. I'm gonna go ahead and take a note of that because I'll need that for later. And then the next thing that we're going to do is we are going to look at the specific gravity of this. And our specific gravity here is at 1.04. So everything came out exactly like we wanted it to. And that means it is time to go ahead and start racking. Again, I'm going to get a whiff of this. It smells very good. It's a little drier than most people would like. Later on in the process, after about 30 days of racking, we will go back and put a potassium sorbate in here to stop the yeast activity. We're also going to spin this, which will be a separate video where I'll take a bit on my drill to get all the bubbles out of this, because a good wine should not be carbonated. But taste-wise, at this point, as if you'll remember, it was very sweet in the beginning. That's good. That's really good. It's drier than, again, like I said, it's drier than most people would typically like. That will stay as my sample. So, the next thing that we're going to do, I'm going to get some of this stuff out of my way here. I'm going to try to get some of these solids off the top. So, I've just got a basic strainer and a bucket. I'm going to go ahead and strain some of this. Again, all of this was disinfected, so we're not going to be spreading any bacteria here. I want to get as much of this off as I can. We got a big chunk of the berries out. The reason we're doing this is because there's still quite a lot of color. One of the things that they talk about a lot in winemaking when you start to study it is what are called tannins. Blueberry skins do not have the same amount of tannins that a typical red wine or a grape wine would have, but they do have a little bit, and that is really what gives the wine its body. It gives it sort of its round flavor where it's not just tasting like blueberry Kool-Aid. So I'm now mashing this. I'm going to get as much of the inside juices out as I possibly can. Try not to make a mess. And this now goes in the sink. Actually, tell you what, let's put it this way. We'll sit it there for now. And this is all of those tannins and stuff that we were trying to save. So, that being said, this is the part that I'm a little bit nervous about. We have our carboy here, and I have a siphon that I have never used. So, if this gets a little messy, guys, I'm going to apologize in advance. The way that this is going to work is I'm going to put this hose on here. Now, at the bottom here, there's a gap, because down at the bottom, what we have is a lot of what are called lees, which is the yeast fallout. So after the yeast is dead, it drifts down to the bottom, and we don't want that going in here. What we're trying to do at this point is clarify this wine, get the solids out, let everything sink to the bottom. And so this goes into here, and this will go into here. If I can get it to... Alright, so we're going to have to do this the old-fashioned way.
Want to explain what you're doing?
All I'm doing here is siphoning this off. I have my tube going into the carboy. It's going to take a while. As you can see, there is still a lot of solids in this. So this is probably going to have to be racked 3, maybe 4 times. We're going to be looking at something like 90 to 120 days before we start bottling this wine. In the meantime, this will sit and it will in a dark, cool place, and it will get happy. At that time, we will follow up with more information. As you can see, we've already started collecting bottles here. Got everything disinfected. We're working on printing some labels. These are 1.5 liter bottles, and I'm also going to be trying a variation. Typically with the red wine, you want to go with a darker bottle because it ages better. In this case, because we are going with the fresh fruit wine, I'm not really sure whether a dark bottle or a light bottle is what we're going to need here. So I'm going to try a variation in the beginning, and then batch 2, I guess we'll know for sure which route to take. That being said, thank you guys for watching, and I will follow up in about 90 days. Okay, so I think we did learn a quick lesson here. As you can see, we are now moving really quick in the siphoning process into the carboy. This is going to take literally no time at all, but I did want to go ahead and, for those watching, spell out that we did not use a cheesecloth sack this time. And as a result, the siphoning process initially was terrible. There were a lot of smaller particles that were clogging our hose. It took a lot of effort to get it all out the first time. What we ended up doing was actually running everything through a very fine screener and getting as much of the large particles out as we possibly could. That required an additional 2 siphonings. Or 2 rackings, I guess you could say. I'm not concerned that it's going to mess up the wine. As you can see by looking at it, we still have a lot of gas. It's still bubbling in there. So I do think that we're going to make some really good progress here. But in the future, what we will do is we will put the fruit into a fine mesh bag for the primary fermentation process to avoid as many of those small particles as we possibly can. So that being said, you can see here looking that this is filling up pretty quick. We have really clear wine going into our carboy, and this should take literally no time at all. We have no particles going through our line here. We have a very smooth flow, and that's what we're looking for. So the process of the first racking is to get as much of that junk out of there as you possibly can, and then get only the good stuff fermenting for the 30-day process. Thank you very much. I'll talk to you in 90 days.